What's up, guys? Spin Firearms here, and today we're going to be talking about my favorite handguns. Not just the Glock 26, but we're going to talk about all 7 subcompacts that Glock has to offer. And what's nice about Glock is they still make all of these calibers in terms of handguns, right? You don't need to buy a conversion barrel to make them. You can get an all OEM handgun from Glock still to this day. And a lot of people want to do the caliber debate. Like, oh, you don't need anything more than a 9mm. I even have some people that say, oh, a 22 does the job, which it does, right? It's just not a reliable pistol round. It just isn't. And I wouldn't want to carry a 22 with all these other options out there. And the big thing is people always say, why a larger caliber? But tell me, if someone were to attack you, would you rather have a 9mm? Or would you rather have a 10mm? Just a question, right? If you had one shot, what would it be? What happens if you can only get one shot off? Only 2 shots off. Would you rather have a 380 or a 40? Sometimes that's how I look at it. Now, obviously, I carry everything. I pocket carry 380 sometimes. I carry a Glock 26 as my main. I oftentimes carry my Glock 27. It all depends what I'm doing, how I'm feeling, all sorts of stuff. But all these handguns on the table are reliable, great options that you cannot go wrong with. And like I said, what's nice is all the parts compatibility between these 5 right here. There's so many interchanging parts that work together. Same with these 2. Tons of parts that can be mix matched from parts kits, like upper parts kits, lower part kits, that whole sort of thing. It's about 70% typically, right? So let's get into it. The Glock 26. This is chambered in 9mm and comes with a flush 10-round mag. So that would be 11 rounds with the flush mag. I do like this pinky extension because it doesn't add anything to printing, but you can still get a good 2.5 fingers on the handgun and you're good to go. Now, one thing I always hear that, criticism-wise about these handguns is they're not meant for people with big hands. Hickok 45, who's 6'9", his main carries for years and years and years and years were the Glock 26 and Glock 27. Even when the Glock 19, Glock 23, Glock 22, all that were around. So that is bullcrap. And he shot them well, right? Next up, Glock 27. This was a handgun, this is a handgun you can find all over the place, used for a great price. Typically what it is a law enforcement trade-in, most of the time at least. And that's because law enforcement carried 40 Smith & Wesson, and the Glock 27 was their backup. Now this setup right here is 11+1 with this base plate on there, but with the flush mag, it's going to be 9+1 of 40. Now 40, especially with today's technology, I have to say that because everyone says that about 9mm, as if they don't use the same technology on 40 Smith & Wesson, 357 SIG, 10mm, and so on. No, if they do it for 9, they're doing it for all their rounds. 40 is just a hard-hitting round, a great round. I've told a story about a law enforcement friend that actually had to drop someone, and it took 8 rounds of 40. So my question always is, what would 8 or 9 or 10 rounds of 9 done the job? I don't know. That's a question we'll never know the answer to, but sometimes it makes you wonder. So typically, what ended up happening is she only had 2 rounds left, which is crazy, and she was being stabbed the whole time. So that's unbelievable, but a Glock 27 saved her life in 40. Like I said, I always ask her, do you think 10+1 of 9mm would have done the job? So we never will know the answer to that. Next up, I know this probably would not have done the job regardless of shot placement. And when you're being stabbed, it's a whole different story. Glock 28, chambered in 380 ACP. This is the least reliable out of the whole entire bunch. I did have problems with mine at first, but I got mine all straightened out. Completely OEM now. Absolutely love it. It is the flattest shooting out of all these, obviously. And it's so fast. So that's one of the benefits of 380. That was a crazy situation. That was a big person, and they were on stuff, and I can get in that story again if you guys want on another video, but this will typically do the job. So for people with weaker hands, stuff like that, it is an awesome pistol. No recoil. Even someone getting new to concealed carry, learning how to shoot, stuff like that. It's a great round, and it's honestly the newest release out of all these. Next up, the reason why these are in here is Glock does consider these subcompacts. They're sold as subcompacts still, so I thought I'd throw them in there. Here's the most powerful out of all of them. This is my Woods Defense, a Glock 29 in 10mm. Like I said, all of these are great options. I would be happy with any of these for the rest of my life. If I can only have one, it doesn't matter. Give me one of them and I'm good to go, right? Now these come with rails. None of the other subcompacts come with rails, but the Glock 29 and the Glock 30s do. Like I said, Bear Defense has a little bit longer barrel, by about 0.3 or 0.4 inches. This right here is an 11+1 setup. Typically it's 10+1. Like I said, rail, just a great shooting handgun. Handles 10 millimeter like an absolute champ. And another thing about all these handguns, they take their big brother magazines, right? So the Glock 26 can go all the way up to 33 rounds. The Glock 27 can go all the way up to 22 rounds. This can go up to 15 rounds, you know, and so on and so on. I have a 15-round mag for this. And all OEM mags is what I'm talking about. So just an awesome handgun. Like I said, this is my woods defense. Sometimes I do carry 40 in the woods. But if I'm going to bear country, this is your answer right here. And like I said, it's still small enough to where you can conceal carry it, but at the same time, you can use that larger mag if you're going out in bear country. So love the Glock 29 in 10 millimeter. Right here, this is the Glock 30. This is in 45 ACP. This is an awesome, awesome handgun. You hear stories of people stopping bears with 45 ACP. Do I recommend it? No. But can it be done with the right loads? Yes, it can. So this is absolutely a great handgun when it comes to, you know, self-defense, stuff like that. This setup right here is 12+1 with this base plate, but typically it's 9+1 or 10+1, depending which mags you are using that are OEM. But once again, it takes the larger mags. I think there's barely any recoil on this thing. A lot of people think it's snappy. I think it's a great shooting handgun. I like 45, and once again, with the technology, with today's ammo, there's some crazy 45 rounds out there. Civil Liberty makes one of them. Underwood makes some of them. Corbin, I mean, all sorts of them. They're just great, great options out there. So that is my Glock 30. Yeah, and notice, they all have wear. I've carried all of these a lot, and they all have holster wear, but the finishes still look great. And the main thing is, there's no rust on any of them. I mean, look at this. Yeah, you have little scratches here and there, but they all look really, really nice. This is my least carried. But I did carry it for a while, but I do shoot this pretty often. Next up, one of my favorite, one of the least spoken about rounds in self-defense today, because people cannot handle recoil. Older generations could. They didn't care if they were carrying a 357 SIG. They didn't care if it was a 45. They didn't care if it was a 40 or 10 millimeter. They're like, heck yeah, this is a beast of a round, and this is what I want to defend myself. Nowadays, it's, oh, 9 millimeter. I need 9 millimeter. Nothing wrong with 9 millimeter. I carry mainly 9 millimeter. But at the same time, I think a little bit of extra power does matter. And you understand this when you look at law enforcement logs, right? Where certain situations it took, like what percentage of the time did it take a 45 GAP? Like how many rounds would it take to, you know, basically stop the situation? And you see that with 357 SIG as well. Just got to do your research on it. The reason why it went down, like I said, generations were having a hard time passing their qualification tests, the newer generations. Therefore, they went away to 9 millimeter. When something goes wrong in the country and there's no ammo, I can still find ammo. I can still get ammo for my handguns. Now, 10 millimeter is a little harder, but the typical person just now getting into concealed carry is not buying a 45 ACP. I can still get ammo and have a gun to shoot. They're typically not buying 40 because they heard it's too snappy. I still have ammo to shoot. And we saw that through the pandemic. We were fine, right? More people buy 380 and 9 nowadays than they do 40 and 45. So, like I said, all these are great. I have nothing against 9, 380, any of them. But nowadays you hear the word snappy thrown around like it's no one's business. Just train. If you train with anything, you can manage anything. Anyways, this is probably my favorite. This is my newest pickup. My only other Glock 33 was a Gen 3 and 357 SIG, and that was with a conversion barrel from a Glock 27. Once again, you can take this Glock 27 that you buy, turn it into a Glock 33. You can also turn it into a Glock 26. You can take your Glock 30 and 45 ACP and turn it into a Glock 29 and 10 millimeter. So there's a lot of, you know, changing around with just one barrel and an ejector swap or whatever the case may be. So it's actually a pretty dang cool system. We're still going to touch on some of this. That is the Glock 27. Glock 33 and 357 SIG. It's a bottleneck cartridge. It's basically a 9 millimeter projectile with 40 amount of powder. It is a beast of a round. Trust me, the Marshals used it for a long time. This and this have been proven to be some of the most effective rounds for law enforcement. Glock 33 Gen 4, love this thing. This is going to be one of my new concealed carry handguns, hands down. I just love the power, especially in winter. People are wearing Carhartts, bibs, 5 layers where I live because it gets extremely cold. This is a great option. Now, will 9mm do the job in the winter? Sure. But do I have a better chance at protecting myself with a Glock 33 and 357 SIG with layers? Yes. That's my only point. Like I said, I have nothing against any of these rounds. Last but not least, probably this is the least heard about on the list, but it's still produced today. And there are multiple ammo manufacturers out there still producing 45 GAP, Glock Auto Pistol. And what is that? That's a round developed by Glock, CCI, and Spear. Now, what's interesting is it has the same width slide as a Glock 30 or a Glock 29. And that's because it's basically a 45 ACP plus P. So it's a more powerful round than your average 45 ACP, 45 gap. And it's a smaller round. That's how they were able to fit it in this little tiny frame versus that, like that, right? So this only holds 6+1. Oh yeah, 9+1 right here. Typically 9 or 10+1. Typically 9 or 10+1. Comes with the OEM mags. Depends what mags you use. Glock 27, 9+1. Glock 28, 10+1. Glock 26, 10+1. But they all have larger mags that you can use. Right here, Glock 39, 45 GAP. This is only 6+1. But I spoke to many people. When you are on YouTube, you meet a ton of people with awesome stories, law enforcement, cops, ex-military. And when you actually have real conversations with these people, not some people that are just in the comments like keyboard warriors. I'm talking real conversations. People sending me logs from their police stations, all sorts of stuff, actual information. When you actually talk to people, not random people saying, oh, I have a 6-hour P365 and 9mm. There's nothing better. The X macro. Nothing wrong with the X macro. But when there's people like that, they don't really look deep into things. And I get it. Faster, more available, cheaper round. But when it comes to self-defense, give me something that's going to do the best job possible. And you think that's what the answer would be. Like I said, I still carry 9mm though. Anyways, 45 GP, he told me they were landing shots from 50 yards with 45 GP, and it was dropping people. One shot. Done. I told you at point blank range, this 40 took 8 rounds. Now, obviously, that was under a certain circumstance and whatever the case may be. But he told me his police force never had a round that could compete with the 45 GAP after that. And they went through 40 and 9mm afterwards. It's crazy. But once again, people are going to say that's bullcrap, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. But no, that's literally the logs that he showed me. And there was a lot of instances where this was one round. Where it took the 40, 2 to 3 rounds. It was just, you get what I'm saying, what the end result of that was. But we don't want that, obviously, but you want to defend yourself. You want it so your family is safe, you are safe, whatever. But like I said, 6+1, this does lack capacity. But what I do is I throw the X grip on there, and it becomes 8+1 with the larger mag. So 9 rounds of 45 GP from Buffalo Bore or double tap is game over. That's over 520 foot-pounds of energy out of this size barrel. Some of my 40 Smith & Wesson rounds, once again, 515, 525, 530 foot-pounds energy out of a 3.43-inch barrel. Unbelievable. Now, why do you want to hit the 500 foot-pound mark? 9mm never gets there. I think there's only 1 or 2 rounds, maybe. But why do you want to hit that? Because it causes a system shock. Causes the person to basically be incapacitated. They may still be alive, but they can't move. They can't function. They can't talk. They can't keep attacking. So if you can hit them with 1 round of over 500 foot-pound energy, it doesn't happen every time, but it's like, I forgot the statistic on it, how much more likely it is to happen. That just ends it right there and then. Even the person may still be alive, but it ends the threat right there and then. 357 SIG, Underwood rounds, Buffalo Bore, double tap. Over 500 foot-pounds of energy out of a 3.4-inch barrel. Unbelievable. Obviously, 10mm, you're getting there with a lot of rounds. 45 ACP, you can get there with a couple rounds that are out there. 9mm 380, you're not going to see that. And a lot of hollow points out of a shorter barreled 380 aren't going to do the job. You need something like a solid projectile Underwood Extreme Defender. That just is what it is. But the 45 gap being, this particular setup being short in capacity, makes up with it in the power. If I miss my first 5 shots, then what's the point, right? That you have to hit shots for it to matter. It doesn't matter if I miss with a 9 or miss with a 45 gap. You're still missing. But if I'm landing, would I want to land 1 or 2 of these and it be done quicker than 3, 4, or 5 of those? Yes. Like I said, I still carry 9mm. It's just food for thought. Just something to think about. I've seen a lot of these police logs. It's crazy. The 45 gap round was a beast. It just never caught fire. Do I carry this? Not that much. No, I do not. But is it a great round? Yes, it is. And how manageable it is out of such a small little handgun. It's awesome. And once again, I'm a collector, so it's an awesome collector's item. Honestly, if I had to rank them, I'm going to go Glock 27 first, because you can turn this into a Glock 33 and a Glock 26. Then I have to go Glock 33. And this is just terms of overall effectiveness as a handgun. Then I would probably go, I worry about over penetration with the 10mm. I really do. So I would go Glock 26, and that's because of speed. Speed plus power combined is an awesome, awesome way to go. Then, all right, I know where I'm going. Glock 29 because of overall power. This can take down anything in North America. Then I'm going to go Glock 30 because some of those rounds are beasts, and it's no recoil shooting this thing. Glock has a great system in their 45 ACP handguns. Then I'm going to go Glock 39 simply because of what we've been talking about. Then I'll go Glock 28. But like I said, if I have any of these for the rest of my life, I'm completely happy. Thanks for watching, guys.